So I recently went to Zurich, Switzerland, and initially we were only going to go see a concert for Camilo. He is one of my favorite artists. He's a Latin artist from Colombia, and yeah, I love him. I love his music, and we knew he was doing a European like small tour, so Switzerland was the closest one to Munich. So we decided to go, and it ended up being just a few days in Zurich, and so we tried to make the most of it. We went to some art museums, and we tried, I think it's like the first vegetarian restaurant ever, and at least that's what they claim. And yeah, that was amazing. The food was amazing. Definitely an expensive city. I will say that if you're looking to travel there, it's definitely an expensive city compared to others. But overall, it is such a beautiful city, so full of life and culture, and it's an older city, and you can definitely see it in the architecture. So I really appreciate just how beautiful everything was when we were there, and I knew going into it that Switzerland is such a beautiful country overall. But I had a lot of takeaways from this trip. I think it really impacted me in a different way than I was expecting. I thought it was just going to be a quick trip to see some art museums and try some good food and have a concert, and yeah, I wasn't expecting to have this impactful experience per se, but it truly was. I will say Zurich is so full of different art forms, and I thought that was something I needed. I needed to get out of my bubble. I needed to get out of my everyday routine of working my 9 to 5 and sitting at my desk all the time, and then just being exhausted and drained after that because I'm on customer calls all day long. And I needed something to remind me of my interests outside of work, and this trip really did that for me. Going to Zurich, going to art museums again in a new country with Patrick was just reminding me of why I wanted to move to Europe, because that was our thing when we traveled through study abroad about 4 years ago. That was our thing. We love art museums, and it was really impactful because it just reminded me a little bit of my old self that over the years I've kind of started to step away from because I get caught up in work and the corporate grind and feeling like I'm getting older and my interests are different from those of people my age sometimes, and there's so many things that are going through my head every day, in comparison and trying to be an adult but also be youthful, and there are so many things that are clashing. And what this trip helped me realize is that I don't have to let go of my previous hobbies just because I'm growing or I'm getting older, and my everyday job is a huge commitment, a huge responsibility that I take very seriously, but it doesn't have to be everything to me. One thing I love about creating YouTube videos that maybe people find silly because I do this, or I get caught up on what people that I know in real life think of them, because I know some people follow me on Instagram who see that I post about my YouTube and stuff, but I'm kind of tired of thinking about what people think of me and my art. So over the course of my life, I loved creating art, and I loved sculptures. I also loved to paint and draw, and I think over the years I lost the confidence to even try doing any of those things because I wasn't as good as other people around me, or I wasn't as good as famous artists, and comparison really just kind of killed my creativity, and then responsibilities killed my creativity. I mean, trying to get into college and then getting into college, and that college experience, I was studying 2 degrees at the same time, and it just soaked up all of the energy I had, and all of the creative side of me was just gone because I was so drained from all of my responsibilities and all of that comparison and feeling of judgment. And something that I want my YouTube channel to be is to be a way for me to express myself, and I think that's an art form. Whether you think vlogs are art or not, that's up to you, but for me, I think art is a way to express yourself, and making YouTube videos, editing, the amount of effort it takes to put a video together and come up with an idea and make it come to life is just incredibly challenging, and I don't think people give YouTubers enough credit. And it almost sounds cringy to call myself a YouTuber because there's just so many bad connotations with that term now, and the influencing culture and everything. But for me, making these YouTube videos is a way for me to express myself and remind myself when I'm 50 that this was a period of my life where I was kind of fearless in creating things that I knew people were going to be judgmental about. And so going to Zurich made me kind of get out of my box. I've really only criticized myself, but when I go to this museum and I see art from so many centuries and decades displayed, and I think of all the artists who maybe thought that those paintings were garbage and were not proud of them, but somebody thought that they were so beautiful and worth displaying for years to come. I think that's something that is so cool, because you are your worst critic. You are your biggest critic. You think that you make all these mistakes and you nitpick, and I know I do this when I'm putting together footage and I'm like, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that, and then I upload it and then I see all these little mistakes and these errors that I already uploaded to the internet, and now they're more permanent. And one thing that helps is having Patrick around me. He reminds me that I'm the one who's looking at this through just such a magnified lens, and no one else is nitpicking as much as I am, because it's something that I created. And I think that's where we criticize ourselves the most, is when we are going through the editing process, or we make something and then we see all of these faults with it. And these are all insecurities I've had, and I've kind of learned to let them go, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks of you. You get to define yourself. Being creative doesn't have to be what everyone else defines creativity as. And some people think YouTube channels aren't creative, they're not art, but I think anything that you create and you put in effort into making and you express yourself through this is art. And one thing particularly about Zurich is that it was an intimidating city, because I see just all this beautiful architecture. People have the coolest street style there. I mean, our Airbnb host, like, her home was so beautifully decorated, and the way that she curated her home was amazing. And I think her profession was working in the art industry as well, and just seeing how successful she was already, and I think that was intimidating. And it's important to use that intimidation to inspire you, and that's how I started to view that experience. Because I mean, you go to these museums and you see all this beautiful art and you think, gosh, I could never create something like that. But for some reason, this time around, I was going through rooms full of paintings of different styles, and I was thinking just how cool it is that we can all have our own style of expression. And I'm not saying I'm going to be the next Van Gogh or anything, but I think I'm excited to try, and I'm excited to experience the process again, because that's something that I let go, and I got caught up in making mistakes and creating something that was horrible and that I would be embarrassed about. But now I'm kind of looking at it as enjoying the process itself, and maybe not the outcome necessarily. And maybe one day I'll make a short film. Maybe one day I will write a script. One thing I love doing is writing. I love putting together content and videos, and I think there's a way to combine your different interests and make it into one hobby that you pursue. And that's something that, who knows, maybe one day I'll make a short film, because we have so much time to create, and I think it's a pity to hold myself back because of what people may think, and use it as an outlet, use it as a way to express yourself. Moving to a new country for me was being able to find myself again, find pieces of me that I miss, because school was so consuming for me. really took everything out of me. And at the end of it, having no true goal, no grading in life has been kind of detrimental to me and started to erase pieces of me. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it really did. Like, after graduating and going into adulthood, I didn't know who I was anymore without being graded, without striving for an A, without having a next milestone. For me, I was so lost just being thrown into the corporate world. And I went through this process of, okay, I have the job that I wanted, I have the job that I worked so hard for in school, and I moved to a city that was unreal. I moved to Silicon Valley as an engineer. I mean, that's as amazing as it gets, right? And then I didn't know what was next for me. And I think that I lost myself throughout school because I was so focused on all these bigger goals. And then my next goal became moving to Europe. And now that I'm here, I'm trying to find out how to build myself back and how to bring those pieces of me that I lost along the way back. And that's how I feel right now. I feel like I'm trying to figure out who I am and what I want and what I love doing. What things bring me joy? What outlets can I use to express myself in a way that I can't at work? So I have been in this creative slump. And traveling to Switzerland just inspired me because seeing all this art from centuries and decades and how people were willing to be risky and try things that no one had really seen. And so when they did it, people were in awe. And I think that's something I want to do, is to step outside of my status quo, step out of everything I thought I knew or everything I thought I loved, because there are things that I have been trying since moving here to a new country. All of these cultural shocks that are now becoming something I'm used to. I'm excited to not be afraid of what people think and not be afraid. So this beautiful city, Zurich, was exactly what I needed. It was a way for me to take a step back and realize that everyone is trying to be the best version of themselves. Everyone is trying to do things they love and things that bring them joy, and breaking up their everyday routine, breaking up the mundane aspect of having a full-time job. And for some people, it's being a hiker, and for some people it's, I don't know, going skiing or swimming in the ocean. And for me, I'm still trying to figure out what that is, but I know something I love and I have loved historically is creating art, and that's very broad, but for me it's painting, it's making videos, it's writing, it's going to a pottery class. It's all of these things that are ideas in my head that I make come to life. And that's something that is very challenging to do, but it's so rewarding when you see it come out on the other side and you see the finished product, and you take a moment to appreciate what you've created instead of criticizing all of the things that are wrong with it. So this video is maybe all over the place, but I hope you got something out of it, and I hope that it encourages you to create and try things that make you uncomfortable and stop worrying about what others think, because at the end of the day, everyone is really only thinking about themselves. Everyone is only thinking about what they're doing, and they're probably gonna forget about things that you do. And that's just the reality, is that people are very focused on themselves, and that's just the truth. So it's really not worth to waste any energy on what other people think. If you're vlogging in public and people are staring at you, just think about how they will forget about you in a few hours. They will see something else that they will judge, or that they will start thinking about, and forget about the person that they saw vlogging earlier. So that's how I've been starting to think about it as well, is life goes on. So why care about what people think? Because it's not going to last forever. That thought or that judgment isn't going to last forever. That is today's video. Thank you for sticking around if you made it through the end. I hope you got something out of it, and I will see you all in my next video because I'm excited to keep creating videos of living in Europe.